Hello and thank you for joining me on this session. As any adult educator, I like to tailor my trainings to match the expectations of my students or clients. In this presentation, I would like to take this concept and explain my train of thought while training someone on the topic of building relationships for a successful customer service. I have posted in here the slides of the training, and I will explain the why and how of the activities you see on the screen. In this particular session, I would also like you to keep in mind some of the assumptions about the adult learner based on the theory of andragogy. The first assumption is that adults tend to become more independent on their studies than they did when they were younger, thus becoming more self-directed human beings. Secondly, the experiences an adult has gone through are a great background for future learning. And lastly, adults need to know why they need to learn something. As a note, I would like to mention that I use the word students as synonymous of trainee or learner. Although there are many theories on adult learners, Illyri's three dimensions of learning model and the theory of andragogy make more sense to bring up for this type of training. Taking that in consideration, I will ask my students about their understanding of their customers. In this cognitive process, the students will be thinking and giving meaning to the idea of who are their customers, what are the client's expectations, and what can they offer the clients to satisfy their needs. After this conversation is done, a more specific discussion will be developed on the students' experiences as a customer themselves on a single visit to a business or as a repetitive customer. In other words, the training group will be split in two to have a better handle of the conversation. In this process, I will be listening to the groups and keeping in mind their comments to later on bring them up. The purpose of this activity is to help the students to think about their own experiences to later on be able to analyze them and achieve a deeper understanding as it is done in the method of reflective practice. Another connection that I like to make on this type of activity is for the students to think of the context and emotions they went through while they experienced this type of customer service. After the groups share their experiences, I will help them to look for the common denominators in their stories that match with the steps needed to build a positive and a strong relationship with the client. Instead of lecturing the students on the steps, I will be working on bringing up those steps from the students' own experiences, and then I will show them this slide with the 6 different steps to build a positive and a strong relationship. Once we have, as a group, comprehended the main steps, we'll break them down to deeply understand the task that one has to follow to achieve the goals of building a strong relationship with the client. For example, in the first step, establishing rapport, we will have this slide with the main activities of the step itself. And here, the task will be to share from their own experiences as an employee helping the customer how they saw themselves being friendly, how they show that they were interested or perhaps trustful. On the second step on interacting positively with customers, I will be showing this slide. While we're going through the steps and activities, the students will be encouraged to think why what they did on this step was successful or unsuccessful. This type of activity is focused on transformational learning, where I am looking to help the students to remember their experience, analyze, and think of what changes are needed to make a difference. Making emphasis on how different someone's day can become after a fantastic customer service experience can easily create another motivational approach for the employees in the training. It is important to think that some of the trainees or students of this session might not be necessarily motivated to learn or even do well in customer service. Therefore, looking for how the session helps them individually will make a big difference on the success of the training and the trainees themselves. And here you can see step number 3, which is identifying the customer needs. The next one is the step number 4 on creating a strong relationship, which is make the customer feel valued. Step number 5 is maintaining ongoing relationships, and step number 6 is looking at handling different types of customers. Although talking about our experiences can be useful, it is also important to practice these steps. Therefore, in sections like this one on handling different types of customers, it will be important to create role plays. In this method, we're hoping that the trainees feel encouraged and safe on a trusting and open environment to work on the role plays. Those role plays are not open for the students to take the lead completely. In this case, the facilitator will be guiding the trainees on what to say and how to react. Nonetheless, the trainees still need to use those guidelines on their own words to feel confident on what they're doing. In other words, the role plays are guided but not scripted. Now that we have learned the steps and analyzed them and practiced several of them, taking in consideration our experiences as customers and employees giving a service, we will now move on to the next phase of the learning process, which is the performance. In this session, in contrast with the last activity of role plays, we will do simulations. The main difference in here is that trainees will be presented with situations that are similar to what they do in the daily work activities, and they will be presented with some problems. In here, we're not looking at the steps of building a relationship individually, but we're looking to use all of the steps at once. In this activity, I will not intercept while the trainees are performing, but I will give feedback to the trainees at the end of the simulation. As we can see, so far I have used the learner's experiences as a customer and as an employee to analyze and understand our roles in the goal of building a relationship with the customer. We have then practiced the different steps with role plays, and lastly, the simulation to put all of the steps together and receive feedback from the activity. Now, I would like to take a turn to the self-directive learning theory to help my trainees to keep learning and feel confident on their work. To do this, I will ask them to diagnose their activities and evaluate themselves. Ask themselves questions as, do I interact positively with my customers? How well do I ask questions to identify what my customers need? I will also encourage them to create goals on those skills that need to work on and to implement these steps and re-evaluate themselves. And lastly, I would encourage them to find relevant materials on customer service to keep learning, as is in the case of the material used to create this presentation. Overall, the training will be based on the assumptions that adults are self-directive learners, that they want to know why they're doing this, and that their experiences are valuable. Then, different methods will be used to get to the different points taught, in this case related to building a strong relationship with clients. And lastly, hoping that the trainees will be able to use this learning experience and transform it into actions that are beneficial for them and the company that they work for. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I'm looking forward to any comments you may have. Thank you so much.